I trusted him with my life. Julian was my only son, the man who promised to protect me. But when I opened that leather folder, my world collapsed. There, on official papers, he was planning to declare me insane and institutionalize me to steal my house and my deceased father's insurance. What he didn't know is that a mother who loves also knows how to fight. Discover how I turned the betrayal of my own blood into the greatest victory of my life. You will never see your family the same way again. Those were the exact words I read. They weren't whispered in a dark hallway. They weren't suggested by strange glances. They were there, written clearly, coldly, and definitively, in my own son's documents. Have you ever felt that coldness that starts at the tips of your fingers and rises through your chest until it steals all your breath? Well, my dear, that is what we are going to talk about today. Look at me. My name is Martha. I am 68 years old, and I dedicated every second of my life to building what I believed to be a safe home here in Pennsylvania. But safety, as I discovered the hard way, is the greatest of illusions. I wasn't snooping. I was never that kind of mother. I always respected Julian's space. He is my only son, the light of my eyes, the man who held my hand at his father's funeral and promised I would never be alone. But last Tuesday, he handed me a black leather folder. "Keep this in the safe for me, Mom. It's just company papers, but I don't trust leaving them in my office while I travel." I accepted, of course. How does a mother deny her son a favor? But when I went to put it away, the folder fell. The clasp snapped, and the pages scattered across the living room rug. When I bent down to pick them up, my hands began to shake, because there, among insurance contracts and property records, was a yellow envelope with my name on it. Asset Transition Plan, Martha Collins. I read it once, I read it twice, I read it 3 times, and in that instant, I realized something terrifying. My son wasn't just hiding something from me. He built an entire plan based on the idea that I would never find out. What he didn't know is that once you read something like that, you can't unread it. The image of the perfect son died right there, on that living room floor. For you to understand how much this hurts, you need to know who I am. I grew up in a time where a man's word was law and a mother's love was the foundation of everything. I spent 30 years married to Arthur, working as a nurse while he took care of our small workshop. When he passed away 5 years ago, my world crumbled. Julian was my safe harbor. At least, that's what I thought. In recent months, I felt a strange pressure. Julian and his wife, Vanessa, a woman who always looked at me as if I were a piece of dusty old furniture, had been insisting that the house was too big for me. "Mom, the stairs are dangerous. Mom, you left the stove on that one time." Small seeds of doubt they planted in my head to make me believe I was losing my mind. But the document I was holding told the naked truth. It wasn't about my safety. It was about money. Julian was up to his neck in debt from bad investments in Atlantic City casinos. And his solution? Declare me mentally incompetent. There was a signed medical report by a doctor I didn't even know, attesting that I suffered from early onset dementia. There was a sales authorization for my house, the house Arthur and I built, with every cent of our sweat. And worst of all, an admission form for a rest home in another state, 5 hours away from here. While I was reading that, the phone rang. It was Julian. "Hi, Mom. Did you put the folder away?" His voice was so sweet, so full of a fake concern that it made me nauseous. "I did, honey," I replied with the firmest voice I could muster, though my heart felt like a bird beating its wings against a cage. "It's safe with me." He has no idea that the confused old mother just woke up. He thinks I'm easy prey, someone he can discard to save his own skin. But he forgot one thing. I raised him. I know every one of his tics, every lie he told when he was a child. But what truly destroyed me wasn't the plan to institutionalize me. It was what I found at the bottom of the envelope. A photo of my late husband Arthur in the hospital weeks before he died. Behind the photo, a note in the handwriting of Vanessa, the daughter-in-law. The life insurance was paid in full. The next step is the property. My husband didn't just die of old age or natural illness. There was something there, a shadow of manipulation that I ignored out of pure love. I felt a deep nausea, I was living with snakes. I fed them. I welcomed them to my table. I took care of my grandchildren while they planned my funeral while I was still alive. With every minute that passed sitting on that floor, a new piece of the puzzle fit into place. The sudden visits, the questions about where I kept my grandmother's jewelry, the insistence that I sign simple routine papers. Everything was an escalation, a silk trap that was closing around me. But now, the game has changed. Julian thinks he will return from his trip and find the same submissive mother as always. He is mistaken. I am not going to scream. I am not going to cry in front of him. I am going to act. Because a mother knows how to forgive a lot. But when you try to steal the dignity and the memory of an honorable father, you cross a line that has no return. I spent the whole night awake, sitting in the library armchair that Arthur loved so much. The folder was open on my lap, weighing as if it were made of lead. I looked at the family photos on the wall. Julian taking his first steps in the garden, Julian graduating, Julian on his wedding day, and tried to reconcile that boy with the man who wrote my destiny on letterhead paper. How did I not see it? How can love leave us so blind to the point of ignoring the poison served to us in crystal glasses? The next morning, I heard the sound of Julian's car in the garage. He had returned from the business trip. My heart raced, a frantic hammering against my ribs. But I took a deep breath. I remembered my years as a nurse, where I had to keep my face serene even in the face of the worst news. I needed to be the best actress in the world. "Mom?" His voice echoed through the house, loaded with that false joviality that now gave me chills. "I'm back. I brought some pastries from that bakery you like in Baltimore." He walked into the kitchen, tall, well-dressed, the picture of success. Behind him, Vanessa, with her impeccable smile and eyes that never stopped scanning the room, as if she were evaluating the price of every piece of furniture. "Hi, honey. How was the trip?" I asked, standing up slowly, forcing a fragility that I knew would comfort them. "Tiring, Mom, but productive." He approached and kissed my forehead. I smelled his expensive perfume, and for a second, I felt like screaming. "Did you manage to put away that folder I left you?" "Oh, yes," I said, hesitating on purpose, faking a slight confusion. "I put it in the safe, as you asked. But Julian, I had a little trouble remembering the safe combination last night. I think my head is a little airy." I saw the look he exchanged with Vanessa. It was quick, a millisecond, but I saw it, a glint of cruel satisfaction. They thought the seeds of doubt they planted were finally blooming. "Don't worry about that now, Martha," Vanessa said, placing her hand on my shoulder. Her touch was cold despite the silk gloves. "That's why we're here, to take care of these difficult things for you. In fact, we've scheduled an appointment with an excellent specialist for tomorrow. Just a routine checkup, you know how it is." The specialist, the doctor who had already signed the dementia report without even seeing me. They were accelerating the process. "A doctor? But I feel so well," I continued with the theater. "It's preventive, Mom," Julian insisted, pouring himself a glass of water with the naturalness of a psychopath. "We want you to be well for the surprise we're planning." The surprise, I already knew, was the room in the rest home in another state. The surprise was the "for sale" sign that was already ready in the trunk of his car. That afternoon, while they were discussing quietly in the garden, I did something I never imagined doing. I used the spare key Arthur hid in the workshop and entered Julian's office at the back of the property. I needed more. If they wanted to institutionalize me, I needed proof that they weren't the suitable guardians they pretended to be. What I found on his computer was worse than any nightmare. Julian wasn't just in debt. He was embezzling funds from his own children's savings accounts, my grandchildren, to pay loan sharks. And there were emails, hundreds of them exchanged with Vanessa about how to speed up the departure of my husband Arthur 2 years ago. They mentioned a medicine, a change in the dosage of the heart medication he took. I felt the floor vanish. My Arthur didn't die of natural causes. He was removed from the way because he refused to sell the family land. We interrupt this emotional report for just a second. If you are feeling your heart tighten with Martha's story and want to know how she will face this terrible betrayal, don't forget to leave your like right now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the continuation of this twist. Your strength helps bring more stories of justice and triumph like this. I left the office before they noticed, but my soul was no longer the same. I was no longer just a betrayed mother. I was a widow in search of justice. I looked at the garden and saw Julian laughing with his wife. They looked like the perfect family from those television commercials. But I saw the fangs. I saw the darkness. They thought they had a helpless old woman in their hands. What they didn't know is that a woman who cared for terminal patients for 30 years knows exactly where the weak points of a body are, and of a criminal plan. The confrontation wouldn't be with screams. It would be with the precision of a surgeon. I started to trace my own plan. I called an old friend of Arthur's, a retired lawyer who owed his life to my husband. "Hello, Robert? It's Martha. I need a favor, and I need no one to know I called." War was declared, but only one side knew it. The tension now is a razor's edge. Martha is no longer a victim. She is a silent strategist. We are entering the phase where the danger becomes physical, and the game. Robert, the lawyer, was brief and certain on the phone. "Martha, if what you say is true, you are not just at risk of losing your house. Your life is in danger. Do not eat anything that hasn't been prepared by you, and do not take any new pills." Those words echoed in my mind as I returned to the kitchen. I saw Julian and Vanessa as strangers, as shadows inhabiting my house. That night, Vanessa decided to prepare a special tea to calm me down. "You seem so tense, Martha. This herbal tea will help you sleep like an angel," she said, with that smile that didn't reach her eyes. I watched, through the reflection of the china cabinet, as she stirred the cup with her back to me. I saw the quick movement of her hand taking something from her apron pocket, a small vial. My heart hammered, but I kept my face like marble. When she handed me the cup, the steam rose with a sweet aroma, but to me it smelled of betrayal. "Drink, dear. It's still hot," she insisted, sitting in front of me, watching me like a hawk watches prey. "You know, Vanessa," I said, holding the cup with both hands to hide the trembling. "This tea reminded me a lot of what Arthur took in his final days. You were so attentive to him, weren't you? Always bringing the medicines at the right time." Her smile faltered for a millisecond. "We did what was best for him, Martha, just as we are doing for you." I brought the cup to my lips, but at the moment Julian entered the room with a thud, I accidentally spilled the tea over my own dress. "Oh, how clumsy I am," I exclaimed, standing up quickly. "My hands. They are losing their strength, Julian. I think you're right. I'm getting sick." I saw the relief on their faces, the relief of those who believe the plan is working perfectly. But what I did next was my first attack move. While I went upstairs to change, I hid the napkin I used to dry the spilled tea. I would take it to Robert to analyze. I needed material proof of their crime. The next day, the trip to the doctor was a spectacle of horrors. The office was in an isolated building in Arlington. Dr. Sterling, a man with cold eyes and excessively washed hands, barely looked into my eyes. Julian and Vanessa stayed in the room the whole time, answering for me. "She has episodes of paranoia, doctor. She hides things and then says it was us," Julian said with a choked voice, faking the pain of a devoted son. "I see," Sterling said, filling out the involuntary commitment form. "With this profile, the transfer to the Havenbrook Clinic must be made immediately, for her own safety." I looked at my son. In that moment, I didn't see the baby I rocked, nor the teenager I taught to drive. I saw a monster that traded his soul for a few $1,000s. I nodded, faking total defeat. I let a tear fall. "If you think it's for the best," I whispered. They left there victorious. Julian even whistled while he drove back home. They thought that the next morning, I would be taken away in an ambulance never to be heard from again. But they forgot that I am a retired nurse. I know the system. And I had Robert's phone number. While they celebrated with a bottle of wine in the living room, I was in my room, locked in, packing not a suitcase of clothes, but a dossier. I took the hidden recorder Robert gave me and recorded their conversation through the bathroom vent, which led to the dining room. "How long until we sell the house?" It was Vanessa's voice. "The realtor is coming on Monday. As soon as she is locked in Havenbrook, I sign as legal guardian. My father's insurance money is already almost gone with those loan sharks pressing me. We need this fast." I had everything. The confession of the sale, the financial motive, and the proof of the forced institutionalization. But the final blow came when Julian said, "I almost feel sorry for her, but she has lived too long, Vanessa. It's time for us to live." I felt a strength I didn't know I possessed. I wasn't going to run. I was going to make them watch their own fall on the stage they loved most, the stage of their lies. The tension has now reached boiling point. What Julian and Vanessa didn't expect is that the helpless old lady was, in fact, preparing a steel trap. Let's dive into the part where Martha's strategy begins to dismantle the villain's confidence. The morning of the supposed transfer dawned gray over our house in Pennsylvania. The silence was interrupted only by the sound of silver cutlery hitting porcelain plates. Julian and Vanessa were dressed in black, as if they were already at my wake. They could barely hide their anxiety. The ambulance from the Haven Brook Clinic would arrive at 10 in the morning. "Mom, did you take your pills this morning?" Julian asked, without looking into my eyes, focused on his coffee. "I did, honey. I took them all." I lied, feeling the weight of the original vials hidden in the bottom of my robe. I saw them exchange a look of triumph. They thought I was sedated, ready to be taken without resistance. But under the table, my legs were firm. I had spent the night reviewing every detail with Robert. The police were already on alert, but we needed the red-handed moment of the forced removal attempt and the use of the forged documents. "Before I go," I said, with a purposefully trembling voice, "I would like one last favor. I want you to call the neighbors, the Millers, and our old pastor. I want to say goodbye to my home with a small prayer." "Mom, we don't have time for this." Vanessa started to protest, impatience shining in her snake eyes. "Please, Julian." I looked directly at him. "It's my last wish in this house. You wouldn't deny your mother that, would you?" He sighed, looking at his watch. His ego was larger than his caution. He wanted to maintain the perfect son facade before the community until the last second. "Fine, Mom. 10 minutes. I'll call them." What they didn't know is that Robert had already talked to the neighbors. The pastor Julian thought he was calling was, in fact, a private investigator specializing in financial fraud, a man Robert knew well. As Julian went to the door, I stood up. I went to the sideboard in the living room and grabbed the black leather folder, the same one he gave me to keep. "Julian, before the neighbors come in, I found this fallen on the floor yesterday." His face turned pale instantly. He recognized the folder. Where did you find that?" "I told you to leave it in the safe." "I found it, my son, and I read it. I read about Dr. Sterling. I read about the clinic, and I read about the debts in Atlantic City." My voice was no longer trembling. It was a whip of authority he hadn't heard in decades. Vanessa stood up, the mask of kindness falling completely. "You shouldn't have done that, Martha. Now things are going to be the hard way." "Julian, call the nurses now. Forget the neighbors." Julian moved toward me to take the folder, but I stepped back with an agility that surprised him. "Touch me, Julian, and you will seal your fate faster than you imagine. This house is full of cameras that Robert installed last night while you were sleeping. Every word, every threat is being broadcast live." He stopped, paralyzed. Sweat began to bead on his forehead. "Cameras! You're crazy! This is proof of your dementia! You're having a paranoid break!" "Is it?" I smiled, a cold smile that made him recoil. "And what about the poison Vanessa put in my tea yesterday?" "I kept the sample, Julian. The lab has already confirmed high doses of non-prescribed sedatives. This isn't dementia, my son. This is attempted murder." At that moment, the front door opened. But it wasn't the neighbors who entered. It was Robert, accompanied by 2 state police officers and the private investigator. "Julian Collins," the officer said, approaching, "we have a warrant to search this property and an immediate restraining order against you and your wife in the name of Martha Collins." Vanessa's reaction was immediate. She started screaming, accusing Julian of having planned everything alone. Loyalty among criminals is a sandcastle, and hers was crumbling with the first wave. It was him. He's the one who wanted the money. He's the one who said his father was already at death's door and that his mother was a nuisance. Julian looked at her with pure hatred. Their perfect love turned into poison in seconds. I just watched, feeling a mixture of relief and a deep sadness that only a mother who buries a child's character can feel. "I gave you everything, Julian," I said, as the police handcuffed them both. "But you wanted what wasn't yours. You wanted my life. Well now, you will have only time, a long time behind bars, to think about what you threw away." As they were led to the patrol car, the neighborhood watched through the windows, shocked. The scandal was just beginning. But for me, the air in that house finally felt clean. However, the greatest revelation was yet to come. Robert approached me with an envelope he had just collected from Julian's office. "Martha, you need to see this. It's about Arthur. What we suspected about his death is real. And there are more beneficiaries on this insurance than Julian imagined." This is the part where the masks finish falling, and Martha discovers that the depth of the betrayal was even greater than she supposed. Justice begins to take shape. Julian and Vanessa were taken away under the disapproving gaze of the entire neighborhood. The sound of the sirens faded, leaving behind a heavy silence in my living room. Robert, my lawyer and faithful friend, placed his hand on my shoulder. He held the envelope he had found in Julian's office. "Martha, you are a strong woman, but what is in here is the final piece of this cruel puzzle," he said, his voice heavy with regret. I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside, there was a document from a private pharmaceutical laboratory and a life insurance policy I had never seen. The document detailed a compound substitution. Julian hadn't just altered Arthur's medicine dosages. He had replaced the heart medication with placebo capsules while administering small doses of a stimulant that caused arrhythmia. My husband, the man who loved me for decades, didn't die of natural causes. He was silently tortured for months by his own son, who watched him die and smiled while serving family dinner. I felt a scream trapped in my throat. The physical pain of that discovery was almost unbearable. "There's more, Martha." Robert pointed to the policy. Arthur was suspicious. In his last month of life, he changed the beneficiary of one of the main accounts. He didn't leave it to Julian. He left it to a trust fund in the name of your grandchildren, Julian's children, but with you as the sole administrator and life tenant. Julian tried to kill me and institutionalize me for money he no longer had a right to. His greed blinded him. He was trying to sell a house that, legally, Arthur had placed under an unattachable usufruct clause that could only be released with my conscious and in-person signature. His entire plan to declare me insane was the only way to bypass the protection Arthur left for me before he passed. He knew. "Robert," I whispered, tears finally streaming down my face. Arthur knew his son was lost. He tried to protect me until his last breath, even while being betrayed. I spent the following days in a state of active numbness. I went to the police station, gave depositions, handed over the recordings and the T samples. Dr. Sterling, the corrupt doctor, was also arrested in his luxury clinic. The web of lies was vast, but the thread pulling it was me. On a rainy afternoon, I received a call from the prison. It was Julian. His lawyer begged me to answer. "Mom, please, you have to get me out of here. Vanessa is telling the prosecution everything. She's throwing me to the wolves. Mom, I'm your blood. You can't let me rot in here." His voice was hysterical, devoid of any real regret. He was still trying to manipulate me through guilt. "Julian," I replied, with a calm that surprised me. "You said I had already lived too long. You said I was a nuisance. You killed the man who gave you life. The blood that unites us is not a contract of impunity, Julian. It is a debt that you will now pay to society. Will you forgive me?" He sobbed. "Forgiveness is between you and God. Between you and me, there is now only justice. Never call me again." I hung up the phone, and for the first time in years, I felt the air enter my lungs without resistance. I was no longer the poor mother or the confused old lady. I was Martha Collins, a survivor. But the journey isn't over yet. I needed to ensure my grandchildren, the children Julian and Vanessa used as an excuse for their ambition, were safe and knew the truth about the hero grandfather they had. I had an inheritance to manage and a life to rebuild from scratch. At 68 years old, this is the final part. Here, Martha doesn't just win, but finds the peace and justice that destiny tried to steal from her. Let's close this journey with the power and emotion your audience deserves. Julian and Vanessa's trial was the talk of the county for months. I had to sit in that courtroom under the cold lights of the Virginia court and face my son's face while the prosecutors showed the evidence I had collected myself. Seeing him in an orange uniform, handcuffed, was a stab to my motherly heart. I won't lie to you. For a moment I wanted to run, hug him, and say everything would be fine. But then I looked at the photo of Arthur on the prosecution's table. I remembered my husband's trembling hands trying to hold a spoon in his final days, while the son he loved deprived him of the medicine that would keep him alive. My compassion died there. What was left was duty. Julian was sentenced to 25 years for attempted murder and aggravated fraud. Vanessa, who tried to sell out her husband in exchange for a shorter sentence, ended up getting 15 years as an accomplice and intellectual mentor. The justice of men was done, but the justice of the soul, that takes a little longer to heal. After the sentencing, I returned to our home. Many friends and neighbors suggested I sell the property. "Martha, there is too much pain in those walls," they said. "Go to a condo in Florida, enjoy the sun." But I looked at the rose bushes Arthur planted. I looked at the mark on the wall where Julian measured his height as a child, and I decided I wouldn't let the evil they did stain the good memories I built in 30 years. I didn't sell the house. I transformed it. I used part of the trust fund Arthur left to create the Arthur's Legacy Foundation, an organization that helps elderly people suffering from financial and psychological abuse from their own families. I discovered that my story is not unique. There are thousands of Marthas out there, trapped in back rooms of luxury homes, being silenced by greedy children and grandchildren. I became the voice they don't have. Today, at 69, my routine has completely changed. I wake up early, take care of my garden, and receive my grandchildren every weekend. Julian tried to use the children as pawns, but I won custody of them after an intense legal battle. They are my new breath of life. When I look into the eyes of little Arthur, my youngest grandson, I see the same kindness that existed in his grandfather. They know their father is traveling to learn to be a better person. And when they are old enough, I will tell them the truth with the same honesty I used to save myself. Many people ask me on the channel, "Martha, how did you manage to forgive?" And my answer is simple. I forgave myself for not seeing the signs sooner. Forgiveness for Julian? I handed that over to time. Forgiveness doesn't mean he should return to my table. It just means I won't carry his hatred in my chest. Hatred is a poison we take, hoping the other person dies. And I chose to live. You know, my dear friend listening to me now, maybe you are going through something similar. Maybe it's not a son. Maybe it's a husband, a sister, or a friend who is undermining your confidence, making you believe you're going crazy or that you're worth nothing anymore. Look at me. Look at my wrinkles and the shine that has returned to my eyes. We, women of a certain age, are like old trees. Our roots are too deep to be pulled up by any storm. They can try to cut our branches, they can try to take our leaves, but as long as the root of our dignity is alive, we will bloom again. Never accept anyone saying your time has passed. Never let your signature be used to erase your story. Your life is your most precious asset, and no one, absolutely no one, has the right to turn it into a business. Today, sitting on the porch where Arthur and I used to watch the sunset, I drink my tea in peace, without fear, without poison. The black leather folder that started all this was burned in the fireplace. The ashes flew away with the Pennsylvania wind. What remained was freedom. And freedom, my friends, is the best gift we can give ourselves at any age. Be strong, be vigilant, and remember, it is never too late to open your eyes and discover that you are the heroine of your own story. If this story touched your heart and served as a warning, please don't leave without leaving your like. Share this video with a friend who needs to hear these words today. Comment below, which city are you watching from? I read all the comments and I'm happy to know that our family of survivors is growing. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and don't forget to check out the other videos appearing on the screen now. You are not alone. Until the next story.